Welcome to Edge Evolution. I'm Eileen Roach, co-founder of Dime, Designs and Machine Embroidery. Edge-to-edge quilting has been popular for over a decade now, and during that time, updated techniques and improved products have been developed to make this task easier for you. That's what you're going to learn today from this unique collaboration between Dime and Amelie Scott Design. You'll learn how to add borders to edge quilts, how to precisely place quilting designs in the hoop so they connect stitch to stitch. You'll design quilt layouts from table runners to crib size all the way to king size. You'll also learn how to eliminate quilt math and automate Amelie Scott Design's edge-to-edge pro technique. Plus, you will see some great pricing that's only available for you in this event. So you'll want to take advantage of that. Let's get started.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley from Dime by OESD now, and I'm excited to be here with you, sharing my love of quilting with your embroidery machine. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about because it's something that I know a lot of people want to accomplish, and they think it's a challenge, but it's actually easier than you think. So you guys wouldn't be here if it weren't for our friends at AccuQuilt. So I would love to welcome Pam on the screen, and let's see what's going on at AccuQuilt. Hey, Pam, how are you?
I am so good. How are you?
I'm good. You're in a little bit different area today.
We are in Elkhorn, Wisconsin. Erica is here with me, and we're doing a live event at 1 o'clock on the AccuQuilt website. And the reason we started at 1 is because the Dime event starts at 11, and we didn't want to intrude on your time. But I'm super excited. And fun fact, we drove here from Omaha, and the lovely Erica found 2 little lap-size quilts that she quilted in the hoop because of watching your shows.
Yay! That's so exciting. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about this before numerous times, how well our products complement one another and our techniques, and that is just a really great testament to it.
Yeah.
So that's really, really cool. So I love how we've got this whole day of, even though we're talking quilting with your embroidery machine today with Dime, but it's kind of a fun day for everyone from the AccuQuilt. They can just go from the one to the other, right?
Yes, you can just sit in your jammies all day. It'll be great.
I love that. I love that. To me, that's the best kind of day too, whenever you can just stay home and just enjoy your hobby, your craft and everything. So, so Pam, just in case we have someone that's new out there, tell us a little bit about AccuQuilt. And then for those of you that are familiar, I've asked Pam too to talk about that little guy that's next to her there on the table. So
this little guy.
Tell us what is AccuQuilt and how can it help us?
So if you're new to AccuQuilt, we're basically a fabric cutting system. So we have what we call dies, which this is a sample of one of our dies. There are blades inside, and you can cut cotton and felt and leather and denim. And we have lots of systems. The cube system are 8 shapes that make 72 mix and match blocks. And from that, you could make a table runner or a sampler quilt or whatever you want. And one of the great things about this show today is that Ashley's going to teach you how to do edge-to-edge quilting on your blocks and on your projects. And so if you're an AccuQuilt, if you've been with us for a while, you might have some orphan blocks, or maybe you have some blocks and you're not really sure what you want to do with them. Today's show is the perfect segue into how to join those blocks together and how to finish some projects. Also, if you're new to AccuQuilt, we have now 4 different cutters. So we have a Go Me, we have a Go Fabric Cutter, our Go Big, which is an electric fabric cutter. And this new bad boy, this is the Go Bolt right here. It's our newest member of the AccuQuilt family. It can cut up to 4 layers of cotton fabric in one pass, but it weighs less than 10 pounds and it's completely electric. And it comes with a die and a mat. So this is the die it comes with, which is that 5-inch square. So you can cut up your scraps and make usable shapes like charm squares. So the AccuQuilt system is great. You can find it on the Dime and OES website, right? And they'll drop ship
Yep.
to you. But
Yep.
Ashley's going to show you how to take those blocks that you've created and put them together into a finished project. It's going to be great.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I think they're going to love the Pam. We've done this topic before with you guys at AccuQuilt and all of your quilters out there, and it was such a huge success. Everyone loved the topic, and so we're talking about it again. But I do have some new things for them too. We're going to talk about, or they'll see some samples. Really, the process is exactly the same, but I've got some samples of some things that I've made with like cuddle fabric or minky, which is something else I know your dye system will cut is that fabric, and you can quilt a quilt, made from minky or cuddle on your embroidery machine. So we'll see some samples of that. Or we're approaching the holiday season, Pam, and I know you guys have a die to make a stocking, and so they pre-quilt the fabric with their embroidery machine, or certainly their sewing machine if they wanted, and then cut out that shape with the dies as well. So
there's the stocking and the cuff, and new members of your family, or you just want to refresh your Christmas stockings. This is the time to do it. This is the time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I so love it. So, and like you said, today we've got specials on AccuQuilt stuff. We've got specials on Dime by OESD items as well. And then I'm going to go through the entire process, Pam, so that after they get their quilts finished with their AccuQuilt cutting system, they put it all together. Then I'll show them how to quilt it with their embroidery machine, and I think they're going to love it. So
it's going to be great. Good deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thanks for having us. We always love to partner with you.
Absolutely. Us too, Pam. I think like you said, it's a great collaboration. Our systems really complement one another, and I absolutely love that. And you guys are great. And I love my AccuQuilt cutting system. So.
There you go. Have a great show then, Ashley. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, Pam. Take care. All right, guys, before we do get started, let me introduce you to one more person because you will see her in the chat, and that's our very own Tammy Madden. How's Tammy today?
I'm doing great, Ashley. They're bringing lots of folks over here already from all over the country. So welcome, everyone. Just in case you're not familiar, I'll be over here in the chat with you for the next 90 minutes. So make sure you ask those questions. Ashley and I want to make sure all your questions are answered before you leave here today. And I will be getting back with Ashley about every 30 minutes or so to a live Q&A so that we can bring her some of those questions. Now, there's quite a bit of folks over here already, so I do want to point out, if my chat gets busy, if you guys see it keep scrolling really fast, put your question marks in front of your question, then I can pull it out a little bit quicker. And if I skip it, please re-ask it. It will not hurt my feelings because sometimes my chat goes a little bit quick over here.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is a topic I know, Tammy, that we get lots of questions on because it seems almost impossible to quilt an entire quilt with your embroidery machine because our hoop is, we've got to fit everything into our hoop. And so it's not as complicated as everyone thinks, but it always brings a lot of questions. So I definitely think that's a great idea. Start your question with a few question marks, and then that way Tammy can make sure to pull that out of the chat that's moving quickly to make sure to get your answers. So that's perfect. So, all right, Tammy, anything else we need to let everybody know before we get started?
Yep, it looks like we're ready. They're coming over here strong. Tell me where they're from. So I'm thinking they're looking for your presentation now.
All right, let's do it. Let's talk about that edge-to-edge quilting. All right, we'll see Tammy back here in about 20 or so minutes, 25 minutes or so, and ask her what you guys need answered live. So we'll do that. So let's head over to the presentation, and here we go. All right, I'm going to share my screen. And let's get started. All right, so today is Edge to Edge evolution with new techniques, because we've taught edge to edge for a very long time here at Dime, and we've added additional information, and we've got a new program that I think you guys are going to love. It's fairly new, so it might be new to some of all of you. But what is edge to edge? So if you have not actually done edge to edge on your embroidery machine or quilting on your embroidery machine, what we are referring to is the process of rehooping and lining up your quilting designs so that you get all over quilting that would be just as beautiful as you see there in that image. So edge to edge quilting is a technique of using your embroidery machine with a quilting file, and then we'll move our hoop each time in order to quilt our entire quilt. So each of these examples here are things that we've done on our embroidery machine, and you can quilt projects that are small all the way up as large as you want. There are plenty of people that have done king size quilts on their embroidery machine. It's just a repetitive movement of your hoop and connecting those items. So here's a few other things that we've quilted, and you can see in progress there on the embroidery machine on that quilt. But if you're new to this project or product, type of quilting, if you're new to edge quilting, then I definitely recommend starting smaller. And you guys know with your AccuQuilt cutting system, you can make fun small projects as well. Like it might be like this casserole carrier or maybe this tree skirt. But starting small is a really great place to begin, because then you can practice the technique and it's not on a full quilt that you created. Also, when you just need a yard of fabric quilted, like we mentioned, Pam and I were talking about, if you're making like a quilted Christmas stocking and you want to cut that shape out, or if it's a quilted fabric for a bag, you can use this technique for quilting just a yard or however many yards of fabric you need to cut your pattern out of as well. So it's a really easy technique for sure. Okay, so when we are talking quilting with your embroidery machine, you may have heard it called edge to edge. To me, that's the most popular term, and that was popularized by Christine Connor of Amelie Scott Designs. But some people also call it all over quilting, end to end quilting, continuous line quilting. There's lots of names that people use, but it's all done with the embroidery machine, all of those different types of things. And the method is pretty much the same, no matter which design type or which term someone's using, but it's going to mimic the look of a long arm quilting or free motion quilting, where it starts at one side and continues on. And it's not going to look like you did that with your embroidery machine. So let me head over to my camera here and let's talk about some samples that I've made so that you can see what it looks like, and we'll talk about different types of fabrics too. So this little casserole carrier here is a great example. So I just pieced it and then cut my shape out of my fabric, but you can see even the inside, which is this is the interior of the front. And so hopefully hopefully that came back. My internet just blipped out here just briefly. Sorry about that. But this particular design is just a quilting file. And if I bring this up a little closer to the camera there, you can see the quilting, and it looks the same on the back of the quilt as it does on the front, because even though we're using our embroidery machine, we are using a quilting file, which is just a run stitch file. So here's some other examples. Take a look at this. So this is a little table runner here that I've made, and I've quilted it with Kingstar metallic embroidery thread, and I used this little design that I had to connect several different times to quilt my entire table runner. Now you can see the back of it. You can really see the design really well. So that's something else that I like to let people know. If you're working with a fabric that's a solid or it reads solid, you'll really be able to see that quilting. And if it's a busy printed fabric, you're not going to notice the quilting as much. The back looks great. Our modern embroidery machines, the tie-off stitch is really minute, and it's really good and precise, and so you don't see all of those tie-offs. But if that worries you, you can either pull your thread to the top or you can use a busy printed fabric. And here's what I mean about a busy printed fabric. So look at this is the back of a quilt. So I made this small little quilt here, and the fabric in the quilt itself is really bold and busy. And for the back of the quilt, I actually used a scraps of the fabric that was in the front to make the back. And you can see all of these busy prints, and you don't even notice the quilting as much. So busy printed fabric really does conceal your stitches, but it's also going to conceal those tie-offs if that's a concern to you. But I promise they are small if you're using a modern embroidery machine, and I just trim it close and you don't even notice those stitches. So here's another example here of, this is something we're going to talk about today, because now with some of our new techniques, it's really, really easy to quilt the interior of a quilt with an edge-to-edge quilting design, but then do a different design for the border and the corners here. When we originally started edge-to-edge quilting, there was a lot of math involved in figuring out exactly how many times you needed to do your design for the interior of your quilt, and then so that it would stop at the border. But we've got a really easy way of doing that for you. And so take a look at some of these examples with this Minky or Cuddle. This is the Cuddle brand fabric here. And you can see that this is just like a table runner that I made. And you can really see that quilting in that Minky fabric. And I know a lot of you are wondering about the thickness, if you really can do that. And you absolutely can. So I have the Cuddle fabric on the front, and this is the the shorter pile, and this is a longer pile. And I did quilt through this as well. And then the back is a longer pile as well. So I've got 2 layers of the Cuddle, my pieced part here, and then this part in the back, which is the Luxe Cuddle. And I actually have batting in between this. And so I quilted through all of those layers here. And like we said, your AccuQuilt cutting system can cut that. Look at made my matching little stocking here. Excuse me. And I took just a piece of fabric and quilted it, and then I was able to cut that out easily to make my little stocking there. So, but isn't that beautiful? And I love how that quilting, that I would think that the quilting would get lost in the nap of the Minky, but it actually really makes the quilting bold and visible. I've got a couple of other examples here. So remember we talked about starting small. This is a drying mat that's 15 inches wide and 15 inches tall, so it's a square. And I quilted this, and I had to do 2 hoopings because I didn't have a hoop that was 15 inches wide. So I hooped one time here and then quilted it, and then I rehooped here, making sure to connect my designs when I did so. But something like this is a great gift. It's also a useful little project that you could do. I made this one out of terry cloth, so you could cut that on your AccuQuilt cutting system and make a really fun drying mat. But this is a great way to practice. You just need 2 hoopings. You can practice your connection technique without working with a full quilt. So, and here's some other examples here with the Minky that I think you'll love. So I made this coordinating set. So this is a little throw pillow here with the Minky. And so of course this was like a 24 by 24 throw pillow. So I don't have a hoop that's that large. So I had to hoop it in segments. And so you can see here that I've got quilting on both sides, and my quilting design goes through this center strip as well. And so my throw pillow, I also made a matching tree skirt. And so this was all quilted edge to edge on my embroidery machine. Isn't that beautiful? And so you can really see that quilting there, and for that tree skirt. And then of course I had to make that matching stocking. So, and this one's really dark because of the navy fabric, but as I angle it in the light, I think you can see that quilting there. So the quilting was all done on my embroidery machine. And I just quilted my piece of fabric, and then I'm able to just cut out my pattern. So isn't that awesome? So there's so many different things you can do. And this here, I just have quilting cotton on the back of the tree skirt, but you can do 2 layers of your minky or your cuddle fabric with batting in between, and this method will work with it as well. So it's really fun and easy to do. So let's talk about the details we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to talk about all the things that you need to make this happen, and we're going to talk about the entire process as well and getting your designs placed and connected. We're also going to talk about the weight of the quilt. We need to make sure we support that, especially if you're using cuddle front and back. That can start to get heavy, that with your batting as well. So we need to support the weight of the quilt. And we also have some specials from Amelie Scott Designs because we also partner with them as well. So, and we actually have my slide backwards there. We actually saw those samples already, but let's talk about the entire process. So in this video, you'll see Eileen actually quilting a quilt and using the embroidery machine to do so. And as she starts, you'll notice that the machine is already set up with our magnetic hoop on the attached to the machine. She attaches the quilt and then puts the magnetic top frame on. So you can see here she's got her quilt all prepped and ready to go, slides it under the needle. She's attaching that to the weightless quilter, which is a frame that supports her quilt and allows the quilt to move with the embroidery machine. So she put her magnetic top frame in place, so that is now hooped. Okay, so she's just making sure she's got everything nice and taut, and then she's getting her design lined up with the printed template that you see there on the on her stuck to her quilt. And after she gets it all lined up, she removes the template and she's ready to start quilting. And then it's just sit and watch. Isn't that cool? So it quilts the area that's in the hoop. Okay. And then for us to connect the designs, we use a template to help make sure that we've got our points connected perfectly. And then you can hoop around that template, you know exactly where your design needs to be. And then line the design up again to make sure that you're all in place, and then remove the template and quilt in that area. So, and she's just checking the quilt there, making sure that it doesn't have any tension. She's all the way down to that lower corner. And then we are going to flip the quilt around to quilt the opposite side. So now the unquilted half is under the needle, and you do the same process. So magnetic top frame, lining up your design, and then quilting all the way down to that final edge. So, and this was a quilt that she made for her guest bed, and look how gorgeous that looks. Isn't that awesome? So you can do the same technique with all of your quilted projects, whether it is something small or maybe it is a full quilt. So today you'll be watching in this main viewing window that you're already seeing me present, and the chat pane is over to the right. That's where you'll find Tammy. So make sure you ask her any of your questions that you have, and we'll answer some of those live throughout the presentation as well. Just a reminder, if you joined a little bit late, if you do have a question, start your question in the chat with a few question marks. That is just, it makes it easy for us to pick the question out of all the comments. So we love to see the comments and where everyone's watching from, and the products that they like, but we also want to make sure we get your questions answered. So if you start it with a question mark, it's just easier for her to see. Now, not only do we have lots of information for you, but we have specially priced products as well. So we'll talk about where you can find those specials coming up here in a second. And you can rewatch this presentation for the next 48 hours. So, and actually, since it's Friday, you guys get all the way through Sunday evening. So come back to this page with your original link, and you can just start the video playing again after it's done airing live. So keep your link and get back here. You can watch this as many times as you need to. So you'll really get a handle on that edge to edge quilting. So all the little images that you see below the viewing window, those are the specially priced products that we have for you guys today. We are going to be talking about a lot of these, and I'm going to show them under my camera. But also, you can read a description of these items by clicking the View Product button, and you'll see the description. And then also you can add it to your shopping cart if it looks like something that you would like to have or you think that would be helpful in your quilting edge to edge journey. So once you add it to your shopping cart, you'll see that pop out from this side, and then you can click the checkout button once you're done shopping. Now, if you like a good deal, you're going to want to pay attention right here. So for additional discount off of your entire purchase, look for the words show order summary when you check out. And once you click that, it will reveal a location to enter a discount code along with all the items in your cart. Now that area that says to enter that discount code there, I've got two different codes for you. So the first one is RIP or RIP. That if you spend over $150 will get you free shipping to any US address. So enter RIP, that will give you free shipping to any US address if you reach $150 in your shopping cart. If you spend over $250, make sure that you enter RIP and then also enter RIP 10 because that's going to get you an additional 10% off of your entire purchase. Okay, so if you reach $250, enter both codes to get free shipping and 10% off of your entire purchase. And hey, here's a little secret. Nothing in the shopping area is excluded from that 10% discount. So if you've been waiting for a good deal, this is the time to get it. So make sure you check that out below. Another way to get a good deal is a bundle. Anytime we bundle things together, we include additional savings in those bundles. So check out the bundles below the presentation, as well as the AccuQuilt products. Because this event was sponsored by AccuQuilt, you are going to get specially priced AccuQuilt products as well. So check those out below. We don't have everything in the line, but we've got the things that we use most here for embroidery. So those cutting systems and bundles put together by AccuQuilt, we have a small offering as well. So check those out in the shopping cart below, and you can enter your discount code on top of that. Okay, now one of the main ingredients for quilting with your embroidery machine is a design that is in an embroidery file format for your embroidery machine. So we've got this free design for you. It's these little bubbles, which is really great for a lot of different quilting projects. This is an embroidery file that when you add this to your shopping cart, it's $0, but you do still have to check out. Once you check out, you'll get that sent to you via email. You can download it and take that to your embroidery machine. It'll come in all the formats that you need for any brand of embroidery machine that you're using, but that's a great place to get started. So you need a design. That's the most important thing. So, and then where do you start? Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the entire process, but here is a really great guide that will help you and will stay with you forever if you own it. So this is a book called the Quilt with an Embroidery Machine in 8 Easy Lessons. This is from our founder at Dime, Eileen Roach. She created this book to get you through the entire quilting process. So today I'm going to talk about the entire process, but this is actually a great book to own as a reference because it has everything that we're talking about plus more. So this is a digital book. So once you download it, you'll have all of those details, and you can certainly print it if you like. But this book comes with a set of quilting designs so that you have the designs that you need for the projects. And it has quilting designs that are edge to edge, that are more custom quilting designs, but also the quilt as you go type method designs as well. So it's a great book for all different types of quilting with your embroidery machine. It's project based, so you'll create a project with each one of these examples to learn that quilting process. So edge to edge, as well as quilt as you go projects, small and large, all in this one book. So Quilt with an Embroidery Machine in 8 Easy Lessons is a digital book, and you can find that below in the shopping pane. Okay, so now the design is definitely one of the things that we need. We also need a quilt sandwich, and we also like to use our Snap Hoop Monster and Hoop Guard. Now, Snap Hoop Monster is a magnetic hoop that makes the process easier. It's not 100% necessary, but trust me, you're going to want it. So let's head over to my camera here and take a look at my little example, and then I'm going to show you the entire process for quilting. So I've got my quilt sandwich. So a few things here to remember. You need a quilt sandwich, and you want to baste it. Now, I've basted it with these pins because it's a visual for all of you, so that I can show you that it's basted. But you certainly can use basting spray if you like. That's fine as well. You can use those basting guns that do the tags. I do like the pins because they're easy to remove whenever I'm moving my hoop around as well. Okay, so let's see that entire process. Okay, so now this is just a little sample with the quilt blocks that I maybe want to quilt edge to edge, and I've got my magnetic hoop. The nice thing about the Snap Hoop Monster is it holds the quilt sandwich without you having to tighten down the screw, and I can also move my quilt around right at the machine, and I don't have to take my hoop off every time. Okay, so I'm going to separate my pieces. I'm going to take the base and place down on my area, and if I'm stitching this, I actually would go ahead and put this on my machine. So I put it on my embroidery machine, and then I can put my quilt sandwich over the top of it. Okay, and I have already done this one quilt example here, and you can see the extra batting that I left all the way around the edge here is actually useful in this instance, because when you have to hoop and stitch all the way to the edge, the extra batting and backing fabric gives something for my magnetic hoop to hold on to. And I actually do have the cuddle fabric on the back, and if I lift here, you can see that my hoop is not separating. It's holding really well here. So I quilted my one design, and then now I would be ready to quilt the next one underneath. My connection point is here at the bottom, and so I'm ready to connect this point here. Now, I have printed, I planned this quilt example in my software called My Quilt Planner. You guys may have seen me use this if you watched the last Edge to Edge event, but don't worry, I'll show it again if you didn't see it. But My Quilt Planner will actually give you a roadmap, so to speak, of your quilting direction and where to start. So I printed this out. It gives me a big green dot. It says to start here, which is what I did. At the center of my quilt, my first hooping was here, and then I would move down to here, up and down to create the quilting on this side, and then I would flip it around and then do it on the opposite side. So you would start in the center. This would already be quilted, and then you would quilt the other half of your quilt. Okay, so we'll talk about more about where that came from. I also like to print a design, and I print this on our print and stick target paper. So print and stick target paper is a paper that is transparent and adhesive, so that you can print your templates on it and it will stick in place until you are ready to remove it. So print and stick target paper is what I'm using, and it comes in both legal and letter. You can choose which one works best for you. Now, for this example, I printed it, and then I like to trim away any of the excess just to make it easier for me. And I saved my templates. I put it back on the release paper. If I'm using the same design again, I'll use that over. Okay, so then I can take my template. I've already quilted this area, and now I'm ready to quilt this area. So I would lift my magnetic top frame, okay, and then advance my quilt at the machine to the next spot so that I'm about right here. And now, how do I know where to get my hoop? Okay, so that's what the template helps me with. So I can take my template here, and I'm going to line up my points just like that. And now I'm ready to quilt this area here. So I can take my magnetic top frame and center this over my hoop. and then put my magnetic top frame into place just like that. Make sure everything's nice and smooth. And now I am ready to quilt this particular design. Now, you want to make sure that you're square in the hoop when you're doing this so that your design doesn't start to head uphill or downhill. So we have this product called Snap Guides. So Snap Guide is a tool that will help check that you are square in the hoop. And I usually check like on my seams here. So I can line that up with the notch on the top. That's the triangle and the bottom. And then I can check my seams. I can also check to make sure that I'm straight with my template. Okay, so Snap Guide is a really great way to check to make sure you're straight in the hoop. And then every Snap Guide comes with a vertical and a horizontal one. So here I could also use this one to check, and I can move these around to wherever I need to check to make sure that I'm all aligned up. So just like that. And that actually looks great. I can't believe I got that first time with that. Usually I have to do some adjustments. Okay. So these are the Snap Guides for the hoop that I am using. You have to get these to match the hoop. Another great tool is the hoop guard. The hoop guard is going to keep that quilt sandwich from falling into the sewing field, and it actually attaches to the side of the hoop, creating a barrier between that fabric that's in the throat and the sewing field so that you don't have a mishap. Okay. So once you've got all that in place and everything's set up, you would use the machine features just to double check that you're lined up with your design template. And then I always like to advance to the first stitch, which in this case is at the top here, to check that it's actually my first stitch is going to land at the end of my previously stitched design. So I advance up here, check that, and then once I know that that's all set, I would remove this template here and then stitch this next design. Okay. And then once I have done that, you're going to lift the magnetic top frame. You would use your template again, and it would go over here. Okay. So I would need to remove my pin. I would place this down, making sure that everything's lined up, and then I would get to this part of my quilt sandwich to do my quilting. Okay. So that's the entire process, as you hoop and quilt, hoop and quilt, hoop and quilt, hoop and quilt until your entire quilt is done. And again, I'm quilting through all 3 layers to get this process complete. So if you haven't tried this, it is really simple and super easy to do. So make sure you give it a try. And like I said, start small as well. So here is a really good picture of why we love the Snap Hoop Monster for quilting. You can see that when we are ready to reposition, that we can lift the magnetic top frame right at the machine and move our quilt along. And we don't have to take our entire quilt off of the machine. It makes the process a lot quicker. And in fact, I have a really cool video here of how Christine Connor uses her Snap Hoop Monster to reposition, and she's got it down to a science, and it really does save even more time. If you're not familiar with Christine Connor, she is the owner and creator behind all the patterns and projects at Amelie Scott Designs. And they are really known for edge-to-edge quilting. So we partnered with her because she's got some great designs and products that you can use for quilting edge-to-edge. And she uses our Snap Hoop Monster for her edge-to-edge quilting. And she has this really fun technique of repositioning the hoop that she calls the Amelie Scott Snap Hoop Slide. So let's take a look at this video from Christine on how she repositions the hoop for quilting.
All right, I'm going to show you how I do what I call the Amelie Scott slide. This keeps me from getting up and down. I just stay at my machine and I quilt. So what I do is first of all, I lift up the bottom portion of the hoop and I put my hand underneath it. It doesn't hurt because there's all these layers. And then I kind of hold the fabric in place while I slide the top portion of the hoop forward. As I'm sliding it down, I go probably to about an inch, inch and a half where the design is still seen inside the hoop. So this is about, probably an inch and a half, maybe 2 inches of my design. You will see that the hoop just kind of stays on top of the magnetic portion because this is the end of the hoop. So the next thing I do is I grab the fabric on the sides and I just pull the fabric straight back. And while I'm doing this, I'm also trying to keep my quilt a little straight. This is on the 7 back here, so I'm kind of trying to keep that on a 7, that seam. And you can hear it when it clicks into place, because it's the magnet kind of snaps into place. And then before I move any forward, I make sure the hoop is set in all 4 areas. We don't want to, run over the hoop. And here, what that did was help me eliminate repositioning the fabric so much. I just have a little bit of pulling and tugging, not much. I check a few seams. This one here is on the 1. That one over there is on the 1. So I'm ready to go really right now. So again, the way I say it is you slide the top hoop forward, pull the fabric back, make sure the hoop is set, and you're quilting just like that. I sing this silly rhyme, or I say the silly rhyme, so it sticks inside your mind. The Amelie Scott Snap Hoop Slide. Woo!
I love that. Such a fun little way to do your quilting. So, and sing a song too. So the Snap Hoop Monster, if you don't have one, it is really will make the process go quicker. It's not 100% necessary, but when you're quilting a large quilt, you've got a lot of rehooping to do, and you want it to cut down time where you can. But the Snap Hoop Monster is also great for other embroidery projects. It's not just used for quilting. You can use it for your regular embroidery projects as well. So if you don't have one, scroll down to the shopping cart below, and then you're going to click the View Product button under the brand of your embroidery machine, and then you'll see a drop down list of the different sizes that we have. Okay, so add those to your shopping cart and take advantage of them while they're on special. Those snap guides that I used are also in the shopping cart below. These are going to help make sure when you rehoop that everything's lined up. It's just really easy to do that right at the machine. You're going to see me use these here in just a bit in a video. And these are specific to the hoop size. So when you choose your snap guide, you have to choose the size for your hoop because it has to fit in that hoop area. So that's just something to keep in mind there. The hoop guard that you saw me use is also available. That creates the barrier to prevent that roll from falling into the sewing field. And we have it in 2 different sizes, the original size and the jumbo. The jumbo is going to be when you're using your larger hoops. I was showing a smaller hoop under the camera, but whenever I'm using anything 6x10 or larger, I use my jumbo hoop guard because it creates a longer barrier there. So, okay, so the next thing we're going to be talking about is how to manage the weight of the quilt, because if you're quilting something like a queen or even smaller, a lap, a double, a queen or king, all that fabric is heavy. And so we need a way to support it so that we can quilt with our embroidery machine. So that's coming up after the break here. So, but before we do that, let's check in with Tammy and see if we've got questions over there in the chat we need to answer. So Tammy, how's it going?
They're keeping me busy over here, Ashley. I'm answering a question, so I'm going to start with some questions that are easy for me to tell you, and you can explain. Let's go back to those samples. Every time you show your samples, I have lots of questions from people. We have questions about your Minky blanket. What kind of needle did you use for that? Did you use a special needle going through all those layers?
So Minky and Cuddle is actually a knit fabric that has the fibers in the knit. And so the back of the Minky is knit. So I just used my regular embroidery needle, and most of our embroidery needles are kind of a light ballpoint anyway. And so it was perfect for the Minky to go through and not damage those knit fibers on the back. So your regular embroidery needle, most everybody's brand of embroidery needle is kind of a light ballpoint. And so it should slip between those fibers of the knit backing. So really good question.
And then the other question they want to know, your drying pad, Patrick, my old handwriting.
Yeah.
Your drying pad, what type of fabric did you use on the back of your drying pad?
I actually did terry cloth on the top and on the back. And so the backing of that, you can see that I quilted around my design. So I actually stitched the design. Let me grab it here and I'll hold up the back, but it's terry cloth on the back, and you can see that I've got a solid piece. And so it is reversible. And so I did terry cloth on the front and the back so that it was absorbent, and then just did my regular quilting cotton for the binding. And so, but yeah, that's another different fabric that you can quilt. So just your terry cloth microfiber might be good to create a drying mat out of. So
All right. And actually, we had a couple questions over here about, can I do this on my multi-needle? Can I do it on this machine? This technique you could probably do on about any type of embroidery machine. Do you agree?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't have to be any specific type of machine. I've quilted on my multi-needle embroidery machine. I've quilted on my single needle. Either one is fine. It doesn't matter the brand. It doesn't matter the model. You just need a quilt sandwich, the hoop for your machine, and a quilting file. So, and there are many of them out there. We have tons of options at OESD for quilting designs that are embroidery machine format. We've got some specials here today in our event that are some of our dime designs, as well as Amelie Scott designs. So, and they come in all different formats for all different brands of machines. So yeah, another great question.
Yep. All right. Actually, the biggest question they have, I'm going to tell you up front, is lining them up. And you did show that a little bit, but I also told them to hold on, because you're going to show them a little bit more detail a little bit later on how to do two different, a nesting and a continuous line design, on how to get that alignment correct.
Yep, absolutely. And I have a video that shows the entire process close up. We saw Eileen, we were kind of zoomed out so we could see the entire process of moving the quilt around. But I have a short video coming up here in just a bit where we're actually focusing at the needle so you can see those points line up. So stay tuned. That's coming up here in just a bit.
All right, Ashley, I'm going to let you get back to it. I see some questions over here, so we will see you in about another 30 minutes or so.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks, Tammy. All right, so let's head back over to our presentation. Let's talk about managing the weight of the quilt, and then we're going to go over to the software and see how we can plan all these designs out, okay? So here, look at this picture here. This is a very common scenario where we are quilting with our embroidery machine, and the weight of the quilt is hanging down in front of or behind our embroidery machine. And when the machine moves to try to create that design, it actually has the potential for popping the inner ring out of place because that quilt is dragging across the edge of the table, or just the sheer weight of the quilt in general. Or if you're using a magnetic hoop, the magnetic top frame may shift as well, and you wouldn't be aligned up. So we use what we call our weightless quilter. So the weightless quilter, you can see in this image, it's a floor frame, and it doesn't have to be bolted down in any way. It just sits on the floor underneath your table. And so this frame can be used with any table pretty much that you already have. And it has these flexible poles that you put into the corner brackets to support the quilt. Look at the back of the quilt specifically, how it's lifted and not hanging down below the table. So it comes with 4 of the floor bars, but most of the time we only use 2 of them, and make an L shape, and then 3 of the brackets. And the brackets just slide on the end of the floor poles, or the floor brackets. You don't have to use any screws. There's no tools to put it together. And then you just place the poles in those corner brackets, and then it's underneath your table. So any table you already have, the weightless quilter will most likely work with. You just need about an inch clearance underneath it, or if you can get around an outside corner. It has these these large clamps on the ends of the flexible poles to hold your quilt sandwich in place while you're quilting. And then take a look at this video here. So the embroidery machine is actually quilting, and you can see that front pole there in the left. That's one of the poles of the weightless quilter. It is flexible, so it is allowing the quilt to move wherever the machine moves. Okay, so this is a really fantastic tool for supporting the weight of the quilt. This tool is like having friends stand on each corner of your quilt and hold it up, and then just gently sway as the embroidery machine moves. So, but you don't have to get your friends. You can just use your weightless quilter. So here's a picture of the weightless quilter underneath this table here. And we're centered in the quilt here and ready to quilt that right-hand side. Here we are in a smaller workspace. So let's say you have a small room that you sew and embroider in. The weightless quilter still will work for your area. You can see here we're actually kind of close to that window in the background there. But also, because we are working at the right edge, instead of having to put a pole there in the very front where we kind of sit, we actually just clamped 2 corners to that left side. You just have to create the support for the quilt. Now, just as Tammy was mentioning, we can quilt with pretty much any embroidery machine as long as you can get an embroidery file. And we have here, this is an example of quilting with a multi-needle embroidery machine, which I like to do as well. You can use the weightless quilter with the multi-needle embroidery machine. Here is Christine Connor on a sewing cabinet. We get this a lot, that the sewing cabinet has about 1 inch of clearance underneath. You'll be able to put the weightless quilter under there as well. And it's also great for helping when you are adding the binding to your quilt. So look at that picture. So if you've ever been wrestling that quilt as you're moving it around, trying to get the binding on, it's a great tool for helping with that as well. Or really any large amount of fabric. So if, let's say, you're doing embroidery around the edge of some pretty heavy drapes, or maybe a shower curtain, or maybe you're doing some embroidery on a bridal gown that's already assembled and you need help supporting the weight of that gown, the weightless quilter is a really great option for all of those instances. And even free motion quilting. If you do free motion quilting out there, then you can use the weightless quilters to support the quilt. It really takes the strain off of your hands, wrist, and shoulders, moving that around. So it just glides over the bed of the machine. So if you want to quilt quilts that are, say, a lap size and larger, I would definitely recommend the weightless quilter to help support all of that weight. Also, I know a lot of us, it's hard for us. Our hands don't work like they used to. And so this really is just a system that's going to just make the entire process easier with managing any large amount of fabric. So add that to your shopping cart. It's $2.99 is the event price, so that already gets you to that price point where you can enter your 10% discount code. So make sure you take advantage of that because it's just a really great deal. So that's get it while it's can. Early, maybe a Christmas present or Hanukkah present for someone. So, or yourself as well. Now, if you're doing something smaller, like say 54 inches or smaller, you can use the weightless quilter tabletop. The tabletop version clamps to the table and has flexible arms and the large clamps to hold on to. The weightless quilter tabletop is not meant for really large quilts. So make sure that you're using the regular weightless quilter for your larger quilts. If you're doing something 54 inches or smaller, then you can use the weightless quilter tabletop. So, and those are all available below. Now, if you are brand new to this and you just want to give it a whirl with something that is smaller, this is a great starter kit for you. It has the Quilt with an Embroidery Machine and 8 Easy Lessons book that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. It has a print and stick target paper, which is the template paper that we use for printing our design. It has a sharp point needles. That's the 7511 sharp point embroidery needles. Now those I would use for your quilting cotton. So sharp point for your quilting cotton. Your regular embroidery needle would be great with the Minky or the Cuddle. The jumbo hoop guard is included in this starter kit, and the weightless quilter tabletop. And we also give you a color play thread set. This is a kit of thread that's 4 solid colors and 1 variegated colors. And those solid colors are the exact colors that are in the variegated spool. But we love quilting with our variegated medley thread, and also our embroidery thread is great for quilting as well. So this starter kit gets you everything you see there for $149.99. So a really inexpensive bundle to get you started with your edge-to-edge quilting. So make sure you take advantage of that. Okay, so now let's talk about the quilt designs and the planning process. Okay, so to figure out on something small, you may just start quilting and run off the edge of your quilt. But as you're doing larger options for the quilting, then it's really important to be able to plan that entire process out. And Christine Connor of Amelie Scott Designs actually collaborated with Dime to create a product that is specific to her designs that makes it really, really easy. So let's hear this special message from Christine Connor on the collaboration with Dime on her new Edge to Edge plugin.
Hi, everybody. I'm Christine Connor, the owner of Amelie Scott Designs and the original creator of the Edge to Edge quilting method on your embroidery machine. You know, all the folks at Dime are really neat people, and I love working with them. And Dime has some really great tools that work so well with my edge-to-edge quilting techniques, like the Snap Hoop Monster, which I can't live without, the Weightless Quilter. My new love is their Target paper, and I love using their thread. I use their exquisite thread, their variegated thread, and of course their King Star metallic thread. Well, we've taken our long-standing partnership to a new level, and I am so excited to introduce the Edge to Edge plugin for my quilt planner. Last year, we collaborated with the team at Dime, who did a great job making a plugin that works with Embroidery Tool Shed and my quilt planner and perfectly follows my Edge to Edge Pro technique. As a reminder, my Edge to Edge Pro book shows you how to have edge to edge quilting in the body of the quilt with different designs in the border, all using 5th grade math and Embroidery Tool Shed to resize the quilting designs. Well, people have been very happy with the technique, but one day I was out walking my dog Lexi and I thought, what would be better than 5th grade math? Well, no math at all. With the Edge to Edge plugin for my quilt planner, you simply enter the dimensions into your quilt, you select the designs, and the Edge to Edge plugin does the rest. It lays out the quilting, it resizes the designs, and it saves them in a selected machine format. How cool is that? And it's really as easy as you just saw on screen. Also, when you purchase the Edge to Edge plugin for my quilt planner, you get over $75 worth of materials, including a new exclusive expansion pack, 6 exclusive design sets, and a digital copy of my new book, Perfect Pairings. I used all the six exclusive design sets on these quilts, so I wanted you to have the instructions for making them as well. I think you guys will really like the Edge to Edge plugin for my quilt planner, and have fun today.
I love that. So it's a really fantastic tool, and we're going to see that in action. But let me describe her pro technique a little bit more to you. So as she mentioned, Christine Connor mentioned that she's been doing edge to edge for a long time, and people have been asking about how they can do the borders as a separate design. And it requires some math to figure out that interior amount. So she created this pro technique that gives you all of the details for creating a design the right size, doing all the math to make that interior design the right size, and then you can choose a different design for your border. So the Edge to Edge Pro ebook describes that technique and has a few projects in there that you can use the projects and her technique with the included designs to create some really fun designs. So here's some examples of the designs or the projects in her Edge to Edge Pro book. It gives you the instructions and the designs to quilt these projects. So I just love that. Now, she also has created a bundle specifically for this event where we've got the Edge to Edge Pro book, but also 2 additional Pro collections. So those give you many more quilt designs to choose from when you're quilting all of your projects. So that is also available below. The event price is $75. Now, if you have never done Edge to Edge before, this is another great starter point here is the Edge to Edge Favorites bundle, because this is her original book that just talks about the entire process, where to start, how to line it up, and gives you designs and projects all in this bundle to complete the process. So we've got several different options here for you getting started and ways to learn. So Christine Connor's method is specific to her designs, where she's got an A and B designs. And what we're talking about today too will work with her method, or when you're using a design that's the same design each time. So that's another great bundle with some of her designs as well. Now, what I want to show you, and is my favorite way to do designing, because I can use any design that I want and it does all the work for me, and that's using the MyQuilt Planner software to help me plan the layout of my quilting design. And Christine Connor's Edge to Edge plugin is a add-on to MyQuilt Planner to do her specific designing. And we're going to see the difference in the two coming up. So the Edge to Edge plugin is specific to the Amelie Scott technique of the A and B designs. And we're going to see the MyQuilt Planner that you can do with any design. So, all right. MyQuilt Planner is a program that will allow you to bring in any quilting embroidery design, and it will help you plan and resize specifically for your quilt that you're working on. It has 99 built-in designs, so you've already got a collection of designs that are built in that you can use, but you can also bring in designs that you already own, like your OESD quilting designs, or if you own another design, or the Amelie Scott designs can all be brought into MyQuilt Planner. And you remember my template that I was using? You can print full-size templates with the MyQuilt Planner software so that you can use your template to help you to line up your design, okay? And all of our software here at Dime is available for Mac and PC. It works on either one, and it's also compatible, like I said, with external design. I lost my train of thought here. And you also can have MyQuilt Planner as a standalone program. You don't have to buy any other programs for MyQuilt Planner to work. But the Edge to Edge plugin does need MyQuilt Planner to work. So the Edge to Edge plugin is specific to the Amelie Scott designs. MyQuilt Planner is not. So let's head over to my software here, and we'll see exactly how you can use it. Okay, so I'm inside of MyQuilt Planner, and I want to plan a quilt and put my designs in it to see how it's going to look and where I'm supposed to start. So this is the simplest program you will ever use. When you open it, you only have to do like 3 clicks. Okay, so you're going to click to open up this quilt layout, and then you're going to answer these questions. So I'm not even counting that because we're really just answering questions here. So you're going to enter the size of your quilt, enter your block size, or you also can enter a hoop size here if you want your design to fill up the hoop. And then you're going to enter if you have sashing, put that number there. If you don't have sashing, you can just put 0. If you have borders, you would enter that here and what size those borders are. And so you would enter that number. And you can see it as I'm entering the information, as I'm answering the questions, it's actually building my virtual quilt based on my answers. Now, what I enter right here, all of this information, this is the information about your quilt top that you've already got created, okay? This is not helping me create my quilt. This is helping me plan the quilting. So I'm going to click on the color option and choose a fun color here, and we're going to color code. Anywhere you put the same color, it tells the software that I want the design to repeat here. And when you put a different color, it lets the program know that I want to put a different design. So since my borders are skinny, I don't want the same design because then it would have to squish it. So I'm going to choose another color here and put that to the top and the bottom. And then the corners, I'll do a different color as well. Okay, so remember, same color, same design, different color, different design. And then this is just the design. So I'll just darken that so it'll show up. And I'm going to reduce the opacity so that you can see that my colors are still there, but they're lighter. And that's just so we can really see our design really well. And then for the hooping sequence, I'm going to choose edge to edge hooping and click OK. Okay. And then now we're going to put our designs in here. So if you want to use the built-in designs, they're in this little gift box here. So let's play around with some of those, and then we'll bring in other designs. So I'm going to choose one of the designs, and it is one design, and I put it in any of these pink blocks, and you can see that it duplicates it automatically for me so that I can visually see what this is going to look like. Now I can click one click. So this is my other click that we talked about, that I can resize the design so that it'll fit in that block. And you can see now with 3 hoopings across and 3 down, these will end right at my border so that I can put a different design here. Now, if you don't like this design, all you have to do is just delete it, press the delete on your keyboard, and it deletes it out of your space there, and then choose another design. So maybe I'll choose this one. And then I'm going to click fit to cell, and it'll fill that one up. So, and you can see that it's made it the perfect size to end right at my border. So now if I want to choose a design for my border, then I'm going to go back into my option for designs here. And under the rectangle, I'll just choose this one. And then when I position that over any of the rectangles here, and I click fit to cell, notice that it fit it perfectly. And it's the right size for my border. Now for the left and the right, I'm just going to copy and paste and then rotate that because I just need the same design, only vertical. And then when I click my fit to cell, it populates for me. And then let's do one more here for the cornerstone. So now all we've done so far is click to answer the questions about our quilt. We have selected a design and we have clicked fit to cell. Okay, those are our only steps. Now let's put a different design in the corner here. So I'm going to go back, and then let's choose this little flower here. I'm going to move that up to the border, and then I'm going to zoom in so we can talk about another option here. Now, if you don't want to fill the entire area, you can also resize just by clicking and dragging the handles. And maybe you don't want your design to go all the way to your seam, because these are my seams of my quilt block. So if you don't want the design to go all the way to the seam, you could resize it to whatever you want it to be, and then you could do center in cell instead of fit to cell. Okay, and if I zoom out here, you can see that we've planned our entire quilt, my interior, and as well as my borders and the cornerstones. Now to save this, I need 1, 2, 3, 4 different designs, right, to get this entire thing quilted. And instead of saving 4 different designs, all I have to do is click the export quilt and then choose a location for that to save. And I'm just going to call this my test quilt. And then we can just save quilt one time. When I click save, it actually opens up the window where it's saved. So there are my designs. And just with one click, it actually saved each of my designs for me. So I've got one for my interior, my top and bottom border, one for the left and the right border, and one of the cornerstones. So I have all of that just in one click. And I even get a PDF that actually helps me with where to start and where is my next hooping going to be. So let me drag over my PDF so you can see that. So it gives me the layout that I created. And then this page, it tells me, it recommends that I start here in the top center, and then I'm going to hoop and quilt this example here, B1, and then the border, and then down to B2, B3, the border, and then this column, and then my border column all the way to my cornerstones. And then I'm going to flip that around, and it's going to give me the order for quilting the second half. So with every quilt that I create, it gives me a recommended start point and then where to go for my second hooping. So isn't that cool? And I can print my template from here as well. So if we go back to our file for our quilt, my test quilt files here, just like that. If I double click one of these and it opens up in my software, all I have to do with this on the screen by itself, I just click the print option and it will print a full size template. So under your settings, make sure you have it set to actual size and click OK. And now, and I need one more thing. I'm going to go back into my settings. I need my crosshair. That's going to help me line these up. And you can see that this design is larger than one piece of paper, but it is actually split it for me so that I can just tape these two pages together, or if I'm using my print and stick target paper, it's already sticky, and I can stick those two pieces together and create one full size template. So that's pretty cool, right? Okay, so now that we've seen that with the My Quilt Planner, and if I go back over to my quilt here, if you want to use a design that you already own, all you have to do is choose File and Merge. And then it's going to take you to your Windows, your File Explorer, and you can go to your files. And I'm just going to go here and find a design that I can show you. And so I'm going to go into my OESD designs. These are not in automatically in the software. And so you can see that this is how we bring them in. So I can choose one of these designs here. How cute. I love these quilting bees. They're just adorable. And then I can choose this design, any of these designs, and have that work with my quilt planner. So I'll choose this one here. Bring it in and then choose my fit to sell. And then this is one of my OESD designs, and you can see here that it's showing that perfect connection point right there. Okay. So I just absolutely love that. So isn't that adorable? Now let's start a new workspace and let's see how we use the Amelie Scott plugin. So the Amelie Scott Edge to Edge plugin actually works a little bit different because this is actually created based on her planning technique. And so I'm going to put in again, you're just going to answer your quilt measurements. Okay. And then if you have a border, you'll put in the width of the border here. And so I'm just answering those questions. And now for the design, what you'll do is you'll click on the letter A, and then it'll open up either your files if you want to use designs on your computer, or if you click the use the Amelie Scott designs, when you click it, it'll go to the design library here with those built-in designs. So I'm going to choose just this Sherbert design here. I think is super cute. And I choose the A design and the B design. Amelie Scott gives you an A design and a B design that is rotated already. And then you're going to choose the border design. And in this case, here's my matching border design and my corner design. And now notice when I'm putting in the designs, it's actually building the quilt for me, because this actually is designed based on the design you choose rather than you putting in all of the details. So it's building that for me. And then I'm going to click OK. And then it'll put that on my workspace. And we'll be able to see it all populated with the designs, just how it's going to look. There we go. How cool is that? So now it's showing those designs. So here's my interior designs. These are the exact right size that I need for quilting the interior of my quilt. I've got my cornerstone designs, and look how each of them are rotated outward. I love that. And then my border designs is also the same way. This design is directional, so it rotates it so that I've got the right orientation for each one of my borders. Again, I click one click, and then I'm going to use I'll just go back to my downloads again. And then this one we're going to call our edge to edge test, and click the format for your embroidery machine. I didn't do that earlier. Make sure you choose the format for your embroidery machine and then click save. And then here, whenever it opens up this file, you can see again. Now this, I've got more files in here because remember my borders and my corners are rotated all the way around. So I've got 4 corners because they're rotated each time. And the same thing with the borders. And I've got 2 interior designs. Okay. So, and I actually created this same kind of layout here. I did a table runner. So if I go back in, you don't have to just use this for full quilts. So take a look at this. So my table runner width and my interior height was just a 9.5 inch, and my border was 4 inches. Okay, I use these same designs, but notice, look how it's adjusted for my table runner. And then I click for my border designs. I actually have no space between them because I wanted them to connect. And when I click OK, it's going to adjust it based on my table runner measurements that we saw earlier. So, and then I've got a little video you'll see here in just a moment of how this stitched out. So, and there's my table runner. How cool is that, right? Okay, so now that we've seen that, let's see how that table runner stitched out, and then we're going to answer some questions. Okay, so here I've got my quilt sandwich, my batting, backing, and my top, and I always start in the center and work my way out. So I'm marking the center of my table runner here so that I know where to place my first template. I printed my templates, in this case, the A and the B. I put that right where the point connects on my center line. You saw the base of my hoop was already attached, and here I go right to placing my template under the needle, and then I can put my magnetic top frame in place. Okay. Now from here, I want to make sure that my design is lined up and straight in the hoop. Okay, so I put that into position. I line that up. I check that alignment with the snap guides, and you can see I'm making some little micro adjustments there. And then I'm going to remove my template and stitch the design. Now, once this design is done, we do the same thing for the next hooping. I use my template, I connect the points, and then place my hoop down, and then I'm going to center my needle, make sure that I'm centered over the design, and then I advance to stitch number 1. I check with my snap guides to make sure I'm straight in the hoop. Okay, and then before I stitch, I like to lower my needle. You can see it just went down there. I like to lower my needle and just check that I'm right at the end of that previous stitch so that I'm going to make that perfect connection. And then I stitch the design, and then I just do that over and over and over until it's completely done. And the border's the same way. I found the center of my border so that I would know exactly where to place my design. I've got that hooped. I check the center alignment, go to that stitch number 1, and then I'm going to stitch that and the next one, the same process. I use my template, put that down, put that in my hoop, and then I'm going to check my alignment, check my stitch there. I always drop that needle to make sure it's connected, and then I'm going to quilt that next area, and just over and over and again until you get it all done. So, and it's really that easy. It's not that difficult to do by any means. So, okay, I think that's a great point to pause, check in with Tammy, and see if we have any questions. So, hey, Tammy, how's it going over there?
It's going great, Ashley. We have a couple of questions. Just a clarification. Do they need any of the editing software to run my quilt planner?
No, you don't. So the My Quilt Planner, it's a standalone program. When you install it, it installs inside of our embroidery toolshed. So you'll install that. But now the My Quilt Planner does, or I'm sorry, the Edge to Edge plugin does require that you own My Quilt Planner. My Quilt Planner is standalone, but the Edge to Edge plugin requires that you own My Quilt Planner. And I actually have a slide that I'm going to reiterate that here coming up here in a minute, Tammy.
All right. And they also want to know, can they add, I was trying to tell you a question and read at the same time. Obviously, it did not work, did it? Resize the templates. Can they bring in designs and resize those to make them fit the dimensions in the software, like the outside designs? Now, I always have a comment to say about this. You can resize, but sometimes if it doesn't look good on screen, it's not going to look good stitched out.
Right, absolutely. And when you're resizing run stitches, you have to remember that it may adjust the stitch length, but it's not going to keep that same distance between your stitching. So like if you have a quilting design that you love how open it is, if you resize it smaller, you know, it's going to be closer together. It can't maintain that same amount of openness, but the software does resize, and it's perfectly fine to resize in there as well. And Amelie Scott Designs, because they create their designs now in our software, you can actually resize them much larger and smaller, which really makes a huge difference as well. So, but yeah, great point. Good question.
And then there's also, we had a question over here about long arm. Do we save in the long arm formats?
So the My Quilt Planner does save to long arm format. So absolutely, if you're working with the planning process and you save out the design, it will save to long arm format. So yeah, another good question.
All right. Well, Ashley, I'm going to let you get back to it. I see a few more questions I need to answer over here. So we will check with you at the end of the presentation.
Okay, sounds good. So, all right. So, just to reiterate what Tammy just asked and what you guys had questions on is the edge-to-edge plugin is requires My Quilt Planner. Okay, so edge-to-edge plugin requires My Quilt Planner to work. Okay, My Quilt Planner is standalone, yes, but the edge-to-edge plugin is not standalone. So you must have a planner if you're doing the edge-to-edge plugin, but the planner is standalone by itself. So we do have special below in the shopping area. So the My Quilt Planner software is bundled with 4 PDF lessons to help you learn it, and a private tutoring session too from one of our education team members to get you started. And it is on special for the event. So make sure that you add that to your shopping cart as well. So the plugin, because it is an Amelie Scott product with Dime, it is a separate purchase. So My Quilt Planner, if you want the edge-to-edge plugin, which is using the Amelie Scott techniques, then you want to purchase that separate. And it does come with some goodies as well. So the edge-to-edge plugin comes with Christine's Perfect Pairing ebooks, which has 6 new patterns and some designs. And also you get some exclusive design packs that are already inside of the edge-to-edge plugin whenever you install it. So that program is a separate purchase. Check that out below. It's really inexpensive, and it is definitely worth it to have both different types of plannings. I love it. Now for the software itself. So to learn the software, it's really easy. You can follow along with the PDFs that come in your bundle and take your private lesson, but also check out our YouTube channel, Dime by OESD. We have hundreds of hours of videos on both our products and our software. So check that out. You can find a lot of help there. Also, join our Facebook user group. So it's called Dime Inspiration Software Users. That group has thousands of knowledgeable users that are probably up stitching in the middle of the night while you're up stitching, and will answer questions for you. But also our education team actually answers questions over there as well. So that's an easy way to find us if you have specific questions that you need our help with. So join that group on Facebook called Dime Inspiration Software Users. Also, the first and the third Tuesday of every month, I do a Software Success Live. That is all lessons on Dime software. The different modules that we have will be I go over all of them and different things that you can make and do. So check that out as well. And those PDF workbooks, so those actually come with the bundle, and they are invaluable. These are have color images and then screenshots of the software to step you through how to create a project. So it's a great way to learn your software. The software lesson, that private tutoring lesson, also comes with the software bundle, but you can purchase additional ones. $30 for 30 minutes, really inexpensive, and you get one-on-one help with a live person that will share her screen and show you exactly what you need to learn. So that's at inspiredbydime.com/software support. So definitely check that out. So, and the last few things that I have for you are just different design types, because there's lots of designers out there that have designs. So when you're looking for a design for edge-to-edge quilting, you're looking for a run stitch embroidery file. And me personally, I like a forward run design. That means it's going to usually start and then continue to stitch to the end point, and it doesn't overwrite itself a lot. Now, with some of our more intricate designs that have really cool motifs in them, sometimes you do have to back stitch or stitch over top of just to create the motif. And that's perfectly fine. It's still a forward run type design. And we said earlier, continuous line design is another term that you might hear. But you can see here as it's stitching on the screen, these are connecting point to point. So that's what we mean by all over quilting or continuous line designs or edge to edge designs or end to end designs. People call them all kinds of things, but they all work the same way that you learned today. Okay, so you can take advantage of that as well. And then here's another example of this stitching. So two different designs linked together to create that all over quilting look that you see there in the image. And this is like a lap size quilt. And I actually quilted this. This was my plan for this. I quilted it with my 6x10 hoop. So you don't even have to have a large hoop. And I mean, it turned out gorgeous. So you can do this method with your embroidery machine, no matter what size you have on hand. It's just the smaller your hoop, the more times you'll have to move it to get your entire quilt quilted. Now, here's another type of quilting design, and we have some of these at OESD as well, where we call them closed designs, and closed designs usually start and stop at the same point, and they don't connect. You usually will nest these designs near one another or next to one another to get that all over quilting look, but it does the same thing, and the process is the same as you would when you are rehooping and planning your design. Use a printed template, place it down, and then you'll know exactly where your next hoop needs to go. Okay, and here's an example of all of that planned out. Those nesting designs still make a beautiful all over quilting, but they actually don't connect point to point. So, and look how gorgeous. There's so many different things that you can do. So no matter what type of quilting design you have, you can certainly do it with the tools that you probably already have. But if you want to make the process easier, I definitely would recommend Snap Hoop Monster, Hoop Guard, a quilt management system like the Weightless Quilter, and then a printed template on our print and stick target paper. So here's just some images to help remind you of why we like to use those templates. When we print a template, it's actual size when it's printed from the embroidery software. So you can use that as a guide of where I need to hoop. Okay, so I place my template down, I make sure that the points are connected, and then I know where to place my hoop. So it just helps me with my alignment. Now, we print on the print and stick target paper. As I mentioned earlier, it does come in two sizes now, letter or legal. You can choose or have both. So if you have a large design, you might want to do the legal page, and then that makes it easier, because then you might only need 2 pieces of paper rather than 4 if you're doing a large design. But this is a transparent paper that is also adhesive. It works with inkjet or laser printers. So you can print full-size designs and then put them all together. And so I love having that ability. Now, here's the tip. Whenever you are using edge-to-edge designs, a lot of times they have those points that connect. I like to trim my template down, as I mentioned in the beginning. Just make sure you don't cut those tails off, because that's your point where you're trying to connect. Okay, and so if you're using nesting designs, it works the same exact way. Print your template, trim away the excess, and you can place that, as you see here, right in that shape of this diamond where it's perfectly fit for. The printed crosshair are going to help you stay aligned with your marks on your hoop so that you're straight in the hoop, and you can check that, remember, with your snap guides as well. Now, we get this question a lot. If you want to pull your thread to the top, you certainly can, but check your positioning there first, making sure that you're lined up, and then advance to the first stitch, and then draw your bobbin to the top. You can hold on to those tails and then do the stitching. Before you ever take one stitch, though, make sure you remove that template. You don't want to have to pick that out of your stitches. So, and then here's the image of advancing to that first stitch. Draw your tail to the top with your needle up and down or your hand wheel. Hold on to that before you start the machine. And then you can always bury that later. If you want to do this, I would recommend turning off the sensors on your machine where it will automatically tie the knot, and also the trim command as well. So if you turn those two things off, it'll let you start the design without trying to tie that knot in it automatically. And then you could tie the knot and bury it. So, and it's really that simple. Okay, so that is the last thing that I have. And so since we've got like a couple of minutes left, let's just check in with Tammy one last time before we go to make sure we got all of our questions covered. So Tammy, anything that we need to talk about before we sign off?
Well, I just saw this question just popped up twice over here within the last 2 minutes, Ashley. And I'm not sure if you talked about it, but what hoop do you recommend for purchase today?
So I don't think I mentioned that. I usually do around the hoops, but thinking back, I don't remember if I mentioned it or not, but it's worth saying again because it is a question we get often. So we have lots of different hoop sizes for lots of different machine brands and models. If you don't already own a Snap Hoop Monster and you are interested in trying one and starting out with one, it's a great time to do it because of the discount. But when you're choosing just one, what I would say to do is if you primarily want to use it for quilting, which I assume you do because you're here today, if you primarily want to use it for quilting with your embroidery machine, I would choose one of the larger sizes that your embroidery machine will accept, okay? Because the larger the hoop, then the less times you will have to move it to get your entire quilt quilted. If you want to use your Snap Hoop Monster for your regular embroidery projects, I always tell people to select the size that you already use the most in your standard hoop. So when you're ready to embroider something, if your 5x7 hoop is the hoop that you grab for more than any other hoop, then I would get a 5x7 for regular embroidery projects. So for quilting, I'd go big or go home. But I would choose the size that you use most if you're using it for regular embroidery. That way, when you're ready to embroider something, then most likely it'll be the size that you're looking for. So really good question. Any others, Tammy, that we want to address?
Well, I think that's all the questions I have now. I'm in the process of answering a few of these questions. So, folks, I will be answering your questions. So don't think I'm ignoring you. And when we say goodbye, I'll still be over here for a little bit. But I want to thank everyone for hanging out with me. And Ashley, thanks for having me over here as well.
Yeah, and I appreciate it, Tammy. I know you were busy and I couldn't have done it without you. So I appreciate you being over there answering questions. So everyone, just a couple of reminders. The event is airing all the way through Sunday evening. So if you want to rewatch this, use your original link and it can get you back to this page and you just start playing the video. So rewatch it. I know this information is a lot and I know it goes quickly. So take advantage. Watch it as many times as you can. The special prices are also good until the end of the rewatch time period, so you can continue to shop throughout the weekend and use your discount code. So if you spend over $250, you do need to enter both codes, RIP and RIP10, so that you can get both the free shipping to the US address and the 10% off of your entire order. And if you have any issues whatsoever, if it's after our business hours, please reach out, or after this video, please reach out to our customer service to get any help that you might need. So, and until we have another event with OESD, we're going to say thanks to everyone for being here. I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation, and we'll say bye for now. See you next time.